Well, Mercator is my biggest holding in all my portfolios. It's many people call it the Amazon of Latin America. I'm not talking about the forest. I'm talking about Amazon, the US company, the e-commerce dominant company. Whereas Amazon is dominant in many countries, in Latin America, Mercado Libre is bigger than Amazon, and they're very big. It's an Argentinian company originally. They are big in Argentina, in Brazil, in Mexico. They used to be very big in Venezuela many years ago, and now with the changes are happening in Venezuela, they have an opportunity to rebuild their presence in Venezuela, which was a very big market to them.
I'm your host, Melanie Schaefer. Welcome to Lead Leg Live. Now, Japan's market is making headlines again. The Nikkei just hit record highs above 54,000 as investors price in aggressive stimulus under Prime Minister Takaichi. The yen is weak, bond yields are moving, and export-heavy sectors are seeing big inflows. Globally, capital is chasing similar structural themes in semiconductors, AI, space, and defense. My guest today is Hervé Van Caloen, owner and portfolio manager at Mercator Investment Management. Hervé, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Melanie. Nice to be here.
So Japan's uptrend has been going for years, but Takaichi seems to be taking things a bit further. What stands out to you in Japan's market right now?
Yeah, it really started in 2012 with Prime Minister Abe. And at the time, it was called the Abenomics, when Prime Minister Abe became very aggressive in his monetary policy and fiscal policies and corporate governance. He was changing the whole corporate governance in Japan. Now, Prime Minister Takaichi, it was Prime Minister Abe's protege. So she is taking all these reforms and this very aggressive pro-growth policies to the next level at this point.
So, looking ahead at semiconductors, there's a TSMC, ASML, and even Advantest, they keep dominating. What makes them so hard to compete with, and why do you think that they should matter to investors today?
So the semiconductor industry is really made out of a number of companies that make the semiconductors, like the one semiconductor, TSMC, or companies that make the equipment. And all these equipments are very sophisticated equipment. So we are in an industry that's dominated by a number of either monopolies or duopolies of oligopolies, because they're very sophisticated products. Think about the Noble Dutch company. They make the machines that make the lithography for semiconductors. Now, that's a highly technology company. They make these machines that are worth sometimes $400 million. And in order to put this machine together, they're huge machines. They need like 1,000 subcontractors who each have highly specialized knowledge to put this very sophisticated machine together. So we're talking about duopolies or monopolies, and that makes them really good businesses. Now, the semiconductor cycle is very volatile, but the business within the cycle are really very sophisticated oligopoly, which makes it very profitable businesses.
Yeah, so Japan is really trying to rebuild its semiconductor industry. How do Rapidus and TSMC's investments there fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, so Prime Minister Takaichi and the previous prime ministers have decided to rebuild their semiconductor industry. Remember, back in the 80s, more than 50% of the industry was in Japan. They were really the dominant force, and then they've let it go towards Korea, to Taiwan. And so late in the last few years, back in 2022, the Japanese government decided to invest in a new company that should be able to compete with TSMC. This is a company called Rapidus, and the government invested heavily into Rapidus, but in the private sectors, companies like Honda, Toyota, Sony, and many other companies became shareholders of Rapidus. And the goal is to make Rapidus a direct competitor in the high-end semiconductor manufacturing within a few years. And so they're investing very heavily to catch up with Taiwan at this point.
Yeah, all right. Next, I want to shift to Latin America. We're seeing pro-business for in places like Argentina and Chile. How does that change your thinking on companies like Mercado Libre?
Well, Mercado Libre is my biggest holding in all my portfolios. It's most people call it the Amazon of Latin America. Now, I'm not talking about the forest. I'm talking about Amazon, the US company, the e-commerce dominant company. Well, whereas Amazon is dominant in many countries, in Latin America, Mercado Libre is bigger than Amazon, and they're very big. It's an Argentinian company originally. They are big in Argentina, in Brazil, in Mexico. They used to be very big in Venezuela many years ago, and now with the changes that are happening in Venezuela, they have an opportunity to rebuild their presence in Venezuela, which was a very big market to them. So it's a growing company. E-commerce penetration in Latin America is still far behind penetration rules in Europe or in the United States. So there's still a lot of that going on. And while they dominate the e-commerce business, they use their knowledge to become the largest fintech company in Latin America. They are becoming the largest bank online in Latin America using their knowledge of consumers and companies in Latin America.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about Asia and South America. I want to look up into the sky for a minute and talk about the space side. Rocket Lab is emerging behind SpaceX. Where do you see opportunity in the commercial space sector going forward?
It is really exploding. The whole space exploration, the whole space industry is really exploding worldwide. The Chinese are trying to catch up with America, but also now even Germany is investing in small startups so that they can start, catch up with the SpaceX. Now, the Rocket Lab is only second to SpaceX. It's a company that was founded by Mr. Beck in New Zealand many years ago, literally in his garage. And he has an amazing track record, and he's now the second largest rocket ship producer in the world. And what makes him so interesting is that last year, for example, I think they had 21 launches, and they had a 100% success rate, which is amazing in that industry. As you know, even SpaceX, we see some of those rockets exploding once in a while. He has a perfect track record. He really shows it. So now he's moving to the next step, where he's launching small satellites and going to very low orbit. Now, in 2026, he's going to launch a bigger rocket, and he's going to start competing more directly with SpaceX.
It's interesting. And Hervé, as you know, there's a lot going on politically in the world right now, and the defense spending is definitely growing, and especially in Europe and Japan. How do companies like, for example, Kraken Robotics fit into that sort of trend?
It's very interesting. I mean, NATO is finally waking up. The Trump administration has made it very clear that Europe and the other NATO countries have to step up. And indeed, Germany, with this new government, has decided to spend a ton of money. I mean, the defense budget in Germany was always, way below the 2% commitment that all NATO countries had made. Chancellor Merkel in Germany has changed that, and next year Germany is going to spend more than 135 billion euros on defense, which brings the defense budget from 1.5% to 2.8%, and it's going to go after that as a percent of GDP. So the Europeans are getting very serious. I mean, with the invasion of Ukraine, with the push from the Trump administration, the Europeans have finally gotten the message, and they're very serious about investing in defense, and most importantly, in the technology. So the company you mentioned, Kraken Robotics, is actually a Canadian company that has bought, among other things, German technology, and they are leaders in the underwater drone business. So they make sensors for underwater drones, but also about this battery technology from this German company, which is part now of a Canadian company. Batteries that are really unique in the sense that they can last for months and months and can go underwater and very deep underwater, much deeper than any other batteries. They can go all the way down to 6,000 meters underwater and resist the pressure. So they had something unique at the time when drone, of course, is something that everybody realized is very important in warfare. And underwater drones are very important in the future of the German OD, but it's all around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, you've touched on that, but I mean, AI and infrastructure investments are getting more attention. They're heavily related as well to defense. Which companies, or with companies like Schneider and Hitachi, et cetera, how do you pick the ones specifically that benefit the most from these big sort of structural shifts?
Yeah, as you know, AI is using up a lot of electricity, and the demand for electricity is picking up rapidly all over the world. So there are some of those big, large companies overseas that are benefiting even from the investments that we're making, upgrading the grid here in the United States, increasing the production of electricity in the United States and all over the world. So if you look at a French company like Schneider, which has bought like Square D in the United States, which might be a brand name, but people recognize in the United States, that they're all over the world and they're very here in the United States benefiting from this demand that's going to go on for 10 years, at least, as AI is using up so much technology. Hitachi, the Japanese company that we mentioned, is another global company that is benefiting from this rebuilding of the electricity. The age of electricity, what we planted right now, is going to benefit these companies, not just for the next quarter or so, but for the next 10 years.
Hervé, you have so much knowledge to share on these sort of like broad investment landscapes that people are looking at. For viewers who want to dive deeper into your research or Mercator's global approach, where's the best place for them to go and how can they connect with you?
So I have a website, obviously. Our company is called Mercator Investment Management. So you can go on our website at mercatorinvestments.com. And, we can ask you questions. We're going to, publish some of the articles I've written in the past and some of the podcasts that I'll be participating in the future. But yes, please, I encourage, if you're interested in what's going on in the rest of the world, there's a lot going on in the United States and the U.S. market, but people are neglecting other markets sometimes. And we mentioned we started with the Japanese markets. Ever since 2012, the Japanese market's been going up and up and up, and it's hitting all-time highs all the time. Europe is waking up, and there's a lot happening. And the other advantage is that this might be a good time to diversify. If you're a little bit nervous about the valuations in the U.S. market, the markets overseas have lacked the performance here, and they definitely are much cheaper, and so the risk is maybe not as high. So please come on my website, Mercator Investments, mercatorinvestments.com, and don't hesitate to send me questions. I will be responding to all your questions.
Fantastic. And you post a lot of great stuff on X as well, so people should definitely go and take a look at you over there. Hervé, thanks so much for joining me. And thanks to everyone for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes of Lead Like Live.